So painting the exterior of the house, this is like one of my biggest value plays. And because my belief is that um, I've in like 700 houses, I put siding on less than 10 or 15. Like I don't side very much. If the reason I would side a house is if it just had like maybe 3 or 4 different types of siding on it is one reason that I've sided a house, because like it's pretty tough to make that look good if it's just all, a bunch of hodgepodge mixed together, unprofessional looking work. Well, it would be as much work to replace it as save it. I've also, when we have cedar shake shingles, very hard to say, it's like a tongue twister. I've painted those quite often, but they are pretty tough to paint and repair. So there is times when it makes sense to go ahead and tear those off and put all new siding. Again, though, I would use every effort to try to save what you have. We have a lot of, in America, we have a ton of like asbestos shingles. I can't even tell you a scenario where I haven't saved those. Obviously, I save those every single time, because tearing off asbestos shingles to put new siding on, you might have to get like a qualified asbestos removal company out there. And that becomes a train wreck and a lot of money. And if you just, you can go over those, by the way. So there's some people that'll just go right over that. And I've done that a few times. But here's the thing for siding. And I mean, here's the thing for like painting exterior versus siding. Try to paint the exterior, right? The painting the exterior is very affordable. So painting the exterior of like a standard Cape Cod that's 12 to 1500 square feet is going to take like 2 guys, 2 days, 3 max. Like I can tell you that me and my cousin went and got a paint sprayer, and you can paint the outside of the house. You can put one coat on the base coat in like 2 hours. And it's how fast it goes with a spray gun. And then you come put the second coat on, like another 2 hours. Day one, you could have all the base coat on. And then I left my cousin for 2 days by himself, and he just cut all the white trim in, painted the gutters, painted all the soffit, and had the place looking awesome. So it was 3 days work, me and him for a day, and then him by himself for 2 days. What do you guys think the labor should be for something like this? Based on, so the math is what I want to teach you through doing this. I really want to teach you how to do the math yourself, so you can start just like using some logical thinking.
So if it's like 2 guys for 3 days, then I'd be looking at paying each guy around 200 a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 200 a day times 3, 600 for one guy, 1,200 for 2 guys. Labor.
I mean, this is max, by the way. I never think I've ever paid more than 12, but I've had students tell me someone told them $3,000 to paint a house. And I was like, dude, you should do it yourself for $3,000. Once you know what you need to get, you'll find it, right? Once we know what we should be paying and we have confidence in what we should be paying, then we will go locate the people willing to do it. And by the way, this is not a high level skill job. This isn't like indoor painting where the cut-in has to be very precise. Outdoors, the cut-in's much easier because you don't have fine lines. You're standing really far away from it. So, I mean, I am not by any means am I a painter, and I was able to do that with like a video and like a little bit of practice. So outdoor painting, I think, is a lot easier. And if you use a spray gun, I always recommend using a spray gun to apply the paint, because if you try to roll it on or paint on siding, you'll be there for like 2 months trying to do it. And by the way, I believe the guy they were hiring, he was trying to do it with a paintbrush or like a roller or something. And that's why he wanted so much money. And he's like, no, this is the best way to do it. And I'm just telling my student, like, yeah, man, this guy's crazy. Don't listen to him. Like, there's no chance. I've sprayed houses, and it's one of the easiest things I've ever done. And it makes it instantly transforms the house. You can take siding that's old, ugly, clean it up, repair it, and then paint it. And you're going to be like very little stuff to do with that. Now, material. So let's talk a little bit about that. The material that you need to paint a house is usually about 15 to 20 gallons of the wall paint, right? You know, we're gonna have like, let's call it a tan on the walls or gray on the walls, and then we're gonna do white on the trim, and about 5 gallon of like, and you're gonna do that in like a satin. You're not gonna do that in a glossy paint. Something like satin or eggshell, just something with the low sheen, because you know siding has a low sheen. You want it to look like siding. You don't want it, if it has a shininess to it, it's gonna be really ugly. So don't do that. Don't use any shiny paint. So 5 gallon semi-gloss for the trim. $1,200 in labor. Let's just run quick numbers. I usually can buy that paint for about $60 to $70 for a 5 gallon bucket. So paint cost on a house is like no more than $400 usually. So we keep it pretty cheap. There might be like a gallon or two you need for the foundation too. So like it usually is running like, I'm getting this pretty cheap, like $55 for 5 gallons of paint, and then like $60 to $70 for the semi-gloss. So, you know, if I put 15 gallons, that'll do most houses, 15 gallons.
Hey, Mike, this is Robert. Quick question, real quick. When it comes to like any repairs that need to be done to like the wood trim around the house, do you usually get somebody else to do that, or would that be like on the paint guy? How do you typically handle that?
Well, if there's a bunch of like bad wood that needs to be replaced, that really wouldn't be the paint guy as much. The paint guy is like usually a painter. Now he might know how to do that too. Like if you have a general, like so my Spanish crew who's general carpenters, they paint, do tile, they
Yeah,
do trim work. If you got someone like that, they can do many things. But if you're getting someone who just paints, then I would not have them do that. I would actually get like a carpenter to do that. And there is a line item in for that. If we have like soffit, trim, like woodwork to do and all that, you'd want to, actually it's right here, exterior woodwork, see it right there. If you go down a couple,
okay.
because sometimes we do have damaged stuff, and that's just gonna that's a little bit tricky to price, and we'll get into that when we get there. But
Okay.
yeah, have someone that knows what they're doing. So if he does know what he's doing, great, let him do it as long as he's reasonable and
Yeah.
not gonna charge you a bunch because he doesn't know how to do it. So yeah, and your question is really good. But one of the things I get from that, or I take from that, is like make sure your house is prepped and right. When I say prepped, meaning that like if there's damaged siding, you got to replace a few pieces of siding, do it. If there's bad woodwork, then do it. If there's a gutter that's falling down, you're going to replace gutters, and you could replace those after. But if you were just repairing a gutter and then like one corner of the gutter, but then you were going to paint the gutters to make them look fresh, then go ahead and repair them. Like get your repairs done before you paint. Just in general. And another thing that I'm glad you asked us, you just made me think of something else for paint. Try to paint the exterior of your house before you replace your windows. That way, if they get some paint on the windows, it's not going to be a big deal. So I would paint the exterior of the house. Also, with that being said, there is one other big piece of this. Everything we do in flipping is about like kind of anticipating risk. One of the bigger risks that I've had with painting houses is that it requires decent temperatures to do it. So like Mike, you probably will struggle a little when you get deep in the winter and it's freezing every day for 2-3 months.
Yep.
It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So whenever I buy a house, the first thing I look for from day one is like a few days of reasonably warm weather. You need about 40 to 45 degrees, like low weather. So if you're getting like a deep freeze for 2 months, it could be a struggle. You can buy paint that can be used in sub temperatures. So you would have to buy special paint that can be sprayed on and used in colder temperatures. But just look for some good weather. If it's raining season, like the spring, then look for some dry days. And if it's dead winter, look for some, somewhat warmer days. We usually have them through. If you're in a 4 to 8 week period, you should be able to find a couple days to paint the house. But that's something that's really important to make sure that you don't get to where you can't paint it because the weather's holding you back, kind of thing.